Hi, George here, and I'll be showing you how to lighten a dark photo. Real nice and light here, good exposure in here for this popcorn cart, but dark everywhere else. Easy to do, but it takes several steps. The first thing I want to do though is to check the size of this image. Go up here to Image, come down to Resize and Image Size. Okay, down here it says 72. I want to have this up at 300. That gives me enough pixels per inch to make this a lot better. I also want to come down here, I'm going to be doing an enlargement. So I'll do bicubic smoother, best for enlargements. And this will help to soften out some of these large areas so we don't increase any problems that we already have in the low resolution. So choose OK. There we go. And then Control 0 to fit screen again. Okay, so now see what we can do as far as improving this. Now, doing adjustments here in Photoshop Elements is a little bit limited for this kind of a color adjustment. I mean, we have some good options. Under Layer and Adjust Layer, we have Levels and Contrast. Those are pretty good, but Levels only gives us 3 settings. That's a black, midtone, and white setting in here. We really need more controls than that to do a good job on this. I'll be using a few different tools here in this particular project. If you want to see how to use all the different tools here in Photoshop Elements, the best way to do that is with my complete training course. It's an online video course, and I'll put a link for that at the top of the description. So what I like to do, since we've already saved this, I'll just close this down. Let's just back out of that step. There we go. And close this file. And I'll go up here to File and come down to Open in Camera Raw. Now, you might think that Camera Raw is just for raw files, and that's not true. You can edit any image you want in Camera Raw and use the Camera Raw controls. So go ahead, we'll do that one. Open the Camera Raw. Back in our projects file right here, and here's the Christmas dark photo that we just did. Let's open this up. Here we go. We're now inside of Camera Raw. And notice how this is separate from the Photoshop interface. It's its own little program here that kind of works on top of Photoshop Elements. The reason I like this better is over here where it says Basic. Let's open this up. And I have all your standard controls in here. Exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, whites and blacks, clarity, vibrance, and saturation. We also have some detailing down here, sharpening, noise reduction, and color noise reduction. So a lot more controls in here than we have in the normal Photoshop Elements. So what I like to do is to work from the top to the bottom on these things. I don't think I need any real color adjustment in here. We may bring in some saturation, but I think our colors are okay. The white looks real white. The blacks look really black. I think we're fine on that. So I'll come in here to exposure. I can pull this to the right, and that really lightens up the picture. Now, I'm looking at the image over in here, the bottom left-hand corner, and somewhere around here looks pretty good. It still looks like it's nighttime. I'm not going too far, making it all blown out like that. So it's still nice nighttime. We can see a lot more in there. So here is the original, and then there's a lot more showing right in here. Now, once we did this, the whites up here really blew out. So we blew our whites out. Let's come down here to the highlights, and I'll back off on the highlights a bit and just tone down that light area. So that brings the lights more back into balance again. So I'm doing big movements on these. Okay, so that's looking good. Let's see if we can enrich our shadows up a little bit. That's going to the left. Maybe just a touch, not too much. Maybe I'll come down here to the blacks, same thing. A little darker on the blacks like that. Let's check our whites. Don't see much happening on the white, so I think we're okay on the white. I'll leave that at the 0 setting. I'll just type that in. Then I'll bring a bit more contrast on this. After the basic settings are in here, let's boost our contrast a little bit, just for a bit more punch to the image. Now I'm kind of looking at different spots. Right now I'll look up here and I'll rocket back and forth. I kind of like that. I'll now look over here and I'll rocket back and forth. Anything somewhere around here, plus 15 or so, looks real nice and real natural. And that's a dramatically improved image. Now I can come down here. We can check our clarity. Just a little bit more in here. And vibrance just a touch more. I think saturation is going to be too much, too heavy of a control. Yeah, that's way too heavy. So I'll leave saturation alone. And I'll stick with the clarity and the vibrance on bringing in our colors again. And that is looking really nice. I don't think we really need to have much in the way down here. Maybe a little bit of sharpening, but not too much. I tend to try to stay away from sharpening as much as I can most of the time. Sometimes you have to have it, but I think most of the time you can get away with just a little bit. Let me see. I'm really not seeing a whole lot of improvement on that. So I'll just leave that one alone. Maybe a little bit of noise up in here, but noise reduction will be softening up the photograph. So let's try some noise reduction. Just a bit, and then sharpening again, see if we can bring back our edges. And I'm not really seeing any improvement on those. I'll leave those alone. Okay, once you have this done, you have 2 choices. One is to figure that you're okay, you're just done. Just click on Done. And if we do that, it'll be saving all these settings inside the file itself. So when you open it up again, it's going to open up back inside of Camera Raw. If you don't want that happening, Go over here to this gear icon, and right here where it says DNG file handling, you can embed in DNG. That's a digital negative. This is now officially a digital negative file. Or you can always use a sidecar XMP file. What this does is it puts all the settings into a separate text file that sits next to your image file. Then if you want to go back to your original settings and erase all this stuff, it's easy to do. You just delete that one file and you're all back to normal again. Or if you have it here in embedded XMP, you can still put this back to the original settings, get rid of all the camera raw stuff by going up here to our three dots and reset to default right there. It puts everything back to the original settings and it gets rid of the additional information that's placed in here by camera raw. So you can get back to pre-camera raw if you want to. But I think that's looking real nice. Let's go ahead and choose open. What this does is going to open this up over here inside of Photoshop Elements. And we can now use our Photoshop Elements controls to make other adjustments if you want to. Let's just take a quick look and see how this compares. Go over here to File and Open. And I'll bring open the original right here. You see it did a phenomenal job on lightening up the dark areas. It looks much better over here. And go to the right-hand side here. We did a bit of lightening up over here on the popcorn cart as well, which also really helps. So it's a much, much better image now once we've made our adjustments. And that's because we had all of those controls to work with inside the Camera Raw dialog box. And if you want to do any additional editing on this here inside of Photoshop Elements, you're going to have to change the color depth. Photoshop Elements works in an 8-bit color depth. Camera Raw works in a 16-bit color depth. So let's increase the color depth in here, which blocks me from working on this image. Now you can fix that easily enough. You may want to save this out as another file. Just do a file save as. So you can get back here if you need to. Let's go ahead, we'll do that. File, save as. I'll keep this as a JPEG. I'll just call this one 16-bit, just like that, and save. There's a bit that we haven't switched over to that save file. We're still working on the original file. So go up to Image, come down to Mode right here, and click on 8 bits per channel. And then right here you can see it says RGB 8. We're now at 8 bits per channel. I can now go over here and let's right-click on this, duplicate background, choose OK. And then if you want to, you can do some more things to adjust the image. Go up to Filter, come down to Noise, and let's try Reduce Noise. And let's see how this does. Now, sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. I wouldn't worry about the sky. What I'm really concerned about are the people in here. So let's go over here, pull this down. That's improving that noise a bit. Before and after, just a slight improvement there. We don't really have any color noise on this one. So I'll pull that down. Okay, I think that's better on the noise. It's going to go ahead and do that. There we are. Now we've done that. Enhance, adjust sharpness. Let's set this back to the defaults. There we go. And I'll bring up my amount quite a bit here. See, it looks over on the faces again. They're over here someplace. The trick here is you don't want to go so high that you begin to bring in additional noise. We want a little bit of sharpening. What this does is it tries to find the edges and increases edge contrast. A little bit more on the radius, just a touch on the radius, not too much. I tend to do more of my control in the amount as opposed to the radius. I think you get a better result that way. It's a bit of a balancing act though. I think that's an improvement. Let's see. Yep, that's a lot better. You can especially see it right up in here. There's without, and there's with. I think it looks great. Choose OK. Let's bring up the original again. And here we go. There's the beginning original image. You can see we're much brighter now in the shadow area and sharper as well. Looks really nice. And on the cart, looking a lot better in here. Better detail on the church in the background. So I think we've done a great job here on adjusting this. If you want to find out more about how to use Camera Raw, I have that in my complete training course. I'll put a link for that at the top of the description. Make sure you hit that thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Also, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I'll see you next time.